Titans? After our success last year, we are excited to bring you another year of Titan Table Talks. I am Dr. Bobby Porter. I use she, her pronouns, and I serve as the Assistant Vice President for Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion here at Cal State Fullerton. This dialogue is being brought to you by the Office of Diversity, Inclusion, and Equity Programs in partnership with the Office of the President, Alumni Engagement, and Government Relations. Before we start, here are a few logistical details of our program and tips to ensure you are able to engage in this dialogue. This event is being broadcasted on Zoom webinar, so your cameras and microphone will be off the entire time. If you would like to engage with our panel or our team behind the scenes, please use the Q&A function in the menu bar below. Also, this event is being recorded and will be uploaded to our YouTube channel with closed captioning available. And lastly, at the very end of our dialogue, you will receive a feedback link to help us improve this program, as well as provide ideas for future events. So let's get into it. Today, our panelists will be engaging in a dialogue about resiliency in the Latinx community with the help of our moderator, Dr. Elizabeth Zavala Aceves. But before we get into that, I'd like to introduce CSUF President Fran Virgi, who's here to give some opening remarks. President Virgi?
Heritage Month, and welcome to Titan Table Talks, Resiliency in the Latinx Community. I want to begin by thanking, of course, Dr. Bobby Porter. You just saw her and the entire team in Diversity, Inclusion, and Equity Programs. I also want to thank Liz Zavala, who's going to be our moderator today. She's just absolutely terrific, a proud Titan alum and our AVP for Student Affairs. And then there are our amazing panelists today. Betty Martinez Franco, another Titan alumna and an account executive at FSB Public Affairs. Mike Limon, yet another Titan alum and a great friend of the campus and executive director of the Educational Arts Academy. And then we have no offense to the others, but my favorites, two future alums, students, Genesis Garcia and Anna Garcia, who are here on our panel as well. And finally, I want to thank all of you for being here for Titan Table Talks as we discuss resilience in our Latinx community. As many of you know, this past June, more Latinx Titans earned their bachelor's degree in 2021 than in any other year in our history. And as I often say, this is kind of a success story, but it is a success story not by accident. Instead, it is by intentional design. And we are right to applaud and thank the faculty and the staff who create and enhance our many Titan programs that are focused on Latinx student success. But when the students involved in these programs applaud and thank us, we should be just as quick to decline their praise, to remind them that the gifts that they provide our campus, our state, and our nation today and into the future are infinitely greater than any investment that we could ever make in those students. When it comes to alumni, it's easy to point to that truth. Their leadership and success throughout our state and nation are both obvious and actually kind of omnipresent. Just this month, we've had campus visits with countless prominent Latinx Titans alums, such as Anthony Rendon. You know, he's the grandson of a Mexican-American immigrants and the 70th Speaker of the United States California Assembly. Saya Brego, the son of farm workers, a lifelong Titan, and a former member of the CSU Board of Trustees. And Rosalina Davis, a first-generation college graduate, the founding member of the CSUF's Hispanic Scholarship Golf Tournament, and of course, owner of the incomparable Tlaquepaque restaurant. And with Titans like Dr. Zavala returning to their alma mater to pay the gifts of equitable education forward, we don't have to wait for alumni visits to feel the transformative effect of Latinx Titan alum leaders. Truth be told, I don't even have to leave my cabinet meetings, as our university's chief of staff, Danielle Garcia, is a first-generation college graduate and a two-time Titan alumna. Of course, when we're talking about Latinx alums like this, or we are citing our rankings as the #4th university in the nation for graduating Latinx students, there's a tendency to think about our Latinx students through the lens of what they were going to do once they graduate. But I ought to tell you, it's important to remember that they don't wait for graduation to lead, to inspire, or to make a difference across our state and our nation. They are already doing that. Case in point, one of our students, Maria Linares, was recently appointed by Governor Newsom as a student trustee on the CSU Board of Trustees. And another one of our students, Isaac Alfaros, was just elected last year as the ASI president of not just CSUF, but all 22 of our sister campuses to serve as the president of Cal State Student Association. And I guess I'm duty bound, but I got to tell you, I'm infinitely proud to point out to everyone that this is the first time in the history of the CSU that both the student trustee and the CSSA president are from the same university at the same time. And of course, that university is Cal State Fullerton. So when it comes to welcoming, embracing, educating, mentoring our Latinx students, we are both doing well and acting with intention. That said, despite the success of Maria and Isaac and the countless other Latinx titans who personify today's theme of resilience, we have to remember a simple truth. The trait of resilience should not be a prerequisite to success at Cal State Fullerton. Our Latinx students should not have to overcome the subterranean systems of oppression and privilege that are so deeply rooted in this country, in the state, in our community, and even in our campus. Instead, we must continuously do more to strive to eradicate these systems and enhance equity for all Titans, so that resilience is actually a choice for our students, not a mandatory survival tactic. One way in which we are doing that at Cal State Fullerton is by ensuring our newly created 6 guiding principles for social justice are not only embedded in our decision-making, but also reflected in the academic journey of all the Titans everywhere. As president, I have the privilege of hearing these journeys all the time. They inspire me, and frankly, they're one of the reasons I come to work every day. But just for example, I recently had the honor of meeting with a student by the name of Mauricio Gomez and was able to speak with him and learn about his Titan journey. That journey began when he was just 4 years old, when his mother brought him and his 3 siblings across the border from Mexico. The family moved right here to Fullerton, but for many years, Mauricio never really felt at home. His mom, working days and nights at a local laundromat that is right next to our campus, struggled just to keep the family fed. In school, Mauricio noticed that his classmates and teachers, well, they didn't look like him. And often he was the only Latinx person in the room, leaving him feeling both invisible and hypervisible at the same time. When we talked, he recalled for me a moment early in his K-12 career when the classmate next to him was berating immigrants during a class discussion. And as this classmate was complaining about what he called illegals pouring over the border and stealing American jobs, nobody, not even the teacher, offered a counter narrative. And Mauricio told me that at that moment, he felt totally alone, ostracized, and pretty helpless. But one day, a school field trip brought him to the campus of Cal State Fullerton. And on that day, he told me he knew he'd finally found a home. That night, he told his mother about this amazing place, a place where he felt welcomed and included, a place where he saw others, students, and staff that looked like him, a place where he felt his mother's dream of him attending a university might actually be possible. You know, Mauricio was telling me this story, and he said his mom was listening, and she had a huge smile came onto her face. And she shared a story with him. She said every May, during her long shifts at the laundromat, she could hear the graduation songs playing in the stadiums of the very place Mauricio had visited that day. One day, she told him, one day, my son, I won't be at the laundromat. I will be in that stadium, and that song will be playing for you. To use Mauricio's words, from that day forward, we had our community, and it was at Cal State Fullerton. In high school, he came to our campus as often as he could, and any doubt that he would one day be a Titan disappeared when the DACA program originated, and Cal State Fullerton became the first CSU and one of the first universities in the nation to open a Dreamers Resource Center. Since enrolling at Cal State Fullerton in 2018, there's been only one time, Mauricio said, only one time that he did not feel welcomed or included. And that was in 2018 when he got on an airplane for the first time in his life to go to Princeton for a physics of life, a prestigious summer program into which he had been accepted. Mauricio told me he was terrified, not just of the plane crashing, but of airport personnel discovering that he was undocumented. Then he got to Princeton, and as he described it, it was like high school all over again. The students and the professors did not look like him. They did not share his background. They did not recognize their own privilege. He excelled in the program. He did very, very well. But, he never felt at home until he returned to Fullerton, to Cal State Fullerton and home after 8 weeks. In his words, that experience made him appreciate even more who we are as a Titan family. Today, Mauricio is a senior with not one major, but two. Check this out. First, there's his physics major, and he currently has a GPA of 3.85 in that discipline. Second, there's his math major, and he currently has a GPA of 3.79 in that discipline. On top of that, during Mauricio's Titan journey, he was accepted into the Dan Black Fellowship. He won the Cabs Con 3 poster presentation for his research in physics. He became a Science Olympiad coach and an IB instructional aide at Valencia High School. He excelled as a laboratory assistant in our Soft Living and Active Matters, or SLAM lab. He thrived as a Telecu scholar, and this year he received the 2021 CSU Trustees Award. And this spring, he will graduate with a Bachelor's of Science in both math and physics. And when he does, his mom, Beatriz, who still works at that laundromat next door to our campus, she will be in Titan Stadium to hear Pomp and Circumstance play for her son, not just once, but twice. Now, after graduating, Mauricio aspires to earn both a master's and a PhD in physics, and hopefully, I hope, come back to return to Cal State Fullerton as a professor, so that new generations of Latinx students are equitably empowered to follow in his footsteps. So if we think about Mauricio's journey through the lens of our 6 guiding principles for social justice, which are enhance equitable learning, expand intentional outreach, amplify our HSI designation and radiate an identity of inclusion, build a professoriate to leadership pipeline, recognize our history and catalyze change, and create an anti-racist community, then we can be confident that these tenets are alive and well in our classrooms and in our communities. And that makes us feel good, like we're on the right track, and we are. But listen, there is still so much more to do, to reach for, and to aspire for the day when all our Titans see themselves in our educators, where all our Titans find themselves in our programs, when all our Titans recognize their cultures in our curriculum, and all our Titans believe in themselves and the actualization of their hopes and their dreams. There are so many stories on our campus like Mauricio's, but there are just as many stories that aren't going as well as his, and we need to focus and dream and intentionally act to make sure that that changes. That day comes only when our Latinx communities are no longer required to be more resilient than their peers. And together we can get there. I'm honored to do this work with you, to share this journey with you, and to celebrate Latinx History Month with all of you. And I'm so anxious to listen to this panel talk about resilience in the Latinx community. Thank you so much, and I look forward to hearing the panel.
Thank you so much, President Virgi, for sharing space with us today and warming us up for dialogue with one another. As I mentioned earlier, our conversation today will be moderated by Dr. Elizabeth Zavala Aceves, who I actually call Liz. Liz serves as the Associate Vice President for Student Affairs here at Cal State Fullerton. Liz is a proud Titan, having earned her bachelor's degree here at CSUF. As a first-generation college student, Liz went on to pursue her master's degree in counseling and PhD in education from the University of Laverne and Claremont Graduate University, respectively. Liz is an engaged CSUF community leader and educator who identifies strongly with the HSI designation and large Hispanic and Latinx population here at CSUF. I hope you enjoyed today's dialogue and that you learn more about our community. Now here's Liz.
Want to join in the conversation, please use the Q&A function at the bottom of the screen. Now let's get started by introducing you to our esteemed panel. First, I have the pleasure of introducing you all to Betty Martinez. Betty is a bilingual account executive at FSB Public Affairs. She values volunteerism and giving back to the community and has been dedicated to the people of Orange County for many years. She is currently working on her master's in public administration from the University of Southern California. Welcome, Betty. Next, we have Ana Garcia. Ana is a first-generation college Latina student. She received her BA from CSUF in 2018 and is currently working on her master's of social work, which I just learned today, actually, she just completed, so congratulations. She's an advocate for individuals experiencing substance use disorders. Welcome, Ana Garcia, to our Table Talk conversation. Next, I'd like to introduce you to Mike Limon. Mike is currently the executive director at the Orange County Educational Arts Academy, which is a public charter school in Santa Ana. Mike has an associate degree in arts from Fullerton College and a bachelor's degree in business administration from CSUF. Welcome back, Mike, to this tabletop community talk. Lastly, we have Genesis Garcia. Genesis is a first-generation college Latina student. She is currently majoring in sociology, health, and social welfare, and is expected to graduate in 2022. Thank you for being part of the conversation, Genesis. So let's get started with this important topic and conversation with our esteemed panelists. Our life experiences in many ways shape who we are as individuals. I myself know being part of the Latinx community, being first in my family to be the first in many things, how that has shaped me in my career and my personal life, and really how it has shaped where I want to be and what communities I want to work in. As a Pride Titan, it is a pleasure to be here with all of you. And the question I have, Betty, if you can reflect for you is, as you reflect on your own personal story, how has your own personal story of resiliency helped shape your career in terms of getting to where you are now? And also, what advice might you give to those who might have similar experiences as you? As you also think about your role, Betty, if you can reflect how your own story has shaped how you engage with our Latinx communities.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth, for having us here, and President Virgi, also thank you so much for that emotional introduction. I identify a lot with Mauricio. He has the same story as I did, except I was the one that came undocumented when I was 19 years old. Coming here, I had to work in anything that I could get. Like, I worked cleaning houses, I worked in the field in Washington State, picking apples, and had my children. And I just dedicated myself to raise them and wanted them to have a better life than I did, right? But because my own parents wanted me to go back to college, it was something in the back of my mind that I wanted to go back to college. But as an undocumented person in early 2000s, there wasn't anything that I could do. It was until I actually received my documentation. The first thing, you have to let like 1 year pass before to obtain residence in California when you get your papers, so you can enroll in college. So the first day that I got my papers, I went to Orange Coast College and enrolled into college. And I always wanted to be a journalist. That's what I was studying in Mexico, to become a journalist. But because I went back to school at an older age, my kids were about to graduate from high school, and I was just like, maybe journalism might not be for me. So I'm gonna go to public relations. I didn't entirely knew what public relations was, but I thought on trying it. I loved it. I think being behind the camera or being behind what the news story is also as important as telling the story, right? it was really great in Orange Coast College. I learned a lot, but it wasn't until I got to Cal State Fullerton when I really felt lost. I'm just like, well, I'm about to graduate. I don't know what am I going to do with my degree. But fortunately, I found the Latino Communications Institute the first day on orientation day. And I thought on trying it. I met the former director, Inez Gonzalez, that day. And she shook me. She pulled the rug out of my feet and just completely shook me into reality. She told me that I need to do internships, I need to network. She told me also, I need to have my elevator speak. I didn't know what it was. I just like, what is she talking about? So she took us, the first time she took us to Hope Conference in Los Angeles. Is a conference where a lot of women leaders get together in a conference just to uplift you, to talk about politics and policy and networking. And Inez told us, she took a group of us, you guys need to network and have your elevator speech. I'm just like, well, you have to tell me what it is, right? But these kind of experiences are the ones that really impacted me. And I think I think those are the kind of things that we all need. We need mentors that actually care for us. Because when you are a first generation student, you really feel lost. I didn't have any family, maybe even when you have family here, and if they are from another country, they don't know the ins and outs of going into education, in college education. I didn't know. I mean, I experimented on myself, and that way I was able to help my own children get into college. One of them that she's here, shout out to Ashley. But you know what? It's all these stages in my life definitely have taken me to where I am right now. The pandemic also waken up a little bit of other, wanted me to help the Hispanic community. I saw how the Latino community was really impacted by the virus, and there wasn't too much that our elected officials were doing for us. And I thought that if I wanted to do a change, I think I need to do something from inside in the government. So that's why I decided to enroll in my master's degree in public administration. One of the things that a lot of the Latinos might not think is, and I felt it myself, I thought I will never get into such a prestigious university like USC. I thought that that was an impossible task. But I would recommend every Latino, Latinx that it's possible. If you want to try it, if you want to keep on going, just put your dream there and just follow it.
Betty, thank you so much for sharing your story with us, and talking about your own personal experience and how it has shaped you to get to where you are. And I heard you speak about having mentors, right, and finding folks who can bring you along the way and teach you the way. Whereas I think we share some similarities of being first in our family and navigating this institution, and just not just the institution CSUF, but really understanding the intricacies that go beyond just attending college, right? So kind of thinking about your career pathway, there was at least one person who was there to help you along the way and kind of give you the insider's perspective of, you need to do internships, you need to have your elevator speech ready, and all of these nuances that, in many ways is a different language, right? And so sometimes I think about my own personal experience as well, being first in my family and also being an English second language learner. That's kind of the analogy that I utilize is, learning a different language, I knew I needed to do it to hustle and find my way. And in many ways, that's a muscle that I still have when I'm, kind of in situations where I don't know how to navigate. That muscle goes on, right? And it's this power of resiliency and a skill that you have along the way. And so what advice might you give? I heard you talk about mentors and finding folks along the way. What advice might you give to those who are still trying to figure out their way, whether it be a career, whether it be schooling, whether it be moving in a different career path or advancing within their own roles? I heard you talk about mentors. Like, so what in particular about mentors? What kind of mentors? What might be some advice that you might want to give individuals who either share similar experiences as you do, or perhaps are interacting with the Latinx community as they think about providing some guidance?
Yeah, definitely. If I think in school you have to find not only the mentors but peer support. If you have common goals with the peers that surrounds you, I think you can uplift each other. But definitely look for teachers, professors that share your same visions. That, for example, in my career, a lot of questions were like, what kind of internships I can find, who can I get closer in order to get these internships, right? Who can I get advice? I got advice from my PR professors, from my PR writing. It's like, what do I need to improve my English in order to get higher? Do you think I should just do PR in Spanish? Then look for a PR teacher that speaks Spanish. I don't think you have to limit to be just a Latinx mentor. I think that's where sometimes we limit ourselves in just thinking, well, they have to look like me. Yes, they have to look like you too. But if we leave the race or anything behind and just think, you know what, I want to be like the person that I see on TV. I don't care what color that person is. I'm going to reach out to them. Don't be scared. Like, send them an email, say, hey, you know what? I really, really admire your work and would love to sit with you and talk during a coffee or lunch break if you have time. Just want to ask you a few questions about professional career and how can you get there. Don't be scared. They might not answer you. That's the worst that it can happen, but at least you have that starting networking per se.
Thank you, Betty.
You're welcome.
As we continue the conversation, I think some of us on the panel share multiple identities, not just being part of the Latinx community, but also being first in our families to attend college. So Ana, if you kind of think about your own experience and navigating being a first generation college student, what this means, that it's not just your first to go to college, it often means you're first in many other things, right? First to perhaps seek a professional role, maybe the first in your families to navigate what that looks like, maybe even first in your family to negotiate salary. You might be the first in your family to be able to purchase a car, buy a home, et cetera. The list goes on and on. So as you think of your own story of resiliency, how did you manage to navigate college and beyond? And what do you think others from similar communities and or those who work closely with the Latinx community should know about the power of resiliency within this community?
Yeah, just like Betty's story, it's similar, but it's just I was born here and my mom was the one who actually came from Mexico. And just her resiliency has kind of, I feel like I've learned from her to not be afraid to speak out when you need to. And for her, it was very difficult for, navigating the resources to like, because we had a very unstable upbringing with my father. So I had to help her deal with that situation. So I was the one at 12, 13, 15 years old, helping her navigate, the legal system, translating when needed, because she didn't speak English. So that really, I felt like growing up, I my resiliency was being challenged since then. And I felt that it has, caused me to have some moments of vulnerability in which, I did fall for some weaknesses, but I navigate through by accepting that, I'm human, I make mistakes, and it's okay to seek resources such as mental health. Me being open to counseling has definitely helped me overcome those weaknesses. And through that, I was able to successfully get my bachelor's within 10 years after graduating from high school. And then 2 years it took me to get my social work degree. So definitely being open and accepting to your own vulnerabilities definitely helps in going forward in your life and through challenges that you may encounter. I feel like within the community, there's a lot of stigma against substance use or mental health, seeking assistance for those issues. And I feel like me as a social worker now, working with a nonprofit with older adults as well that may suffer mental health or substance use issues, I could use my past experiences to really advocate for services within vulnerable populations. As well as definitely, just like Betty, not being afraid to reach out to your professors that you have. I'm very grateful that at Cerritos College, when getting my AA there, I had a professor who really was open to her students, and for her, I'm thankful that I was given the opportunity to present at the Western Psychological Association, my research, and that she told me that would be good in my history, in my resume, to have that experience. And through that, as well as through Cal State Fullerton as my undergrad, had many professors who were very supportive and understanding the challenges as a first generation student. It's also giving me the opportunity to present as well at the Western Psychological Association, second time around for my BA. So definitely, I've learned from my professors to really build up an experience to really strengthen my skills as a first generation student. As well. And during my time there at Cal State Fullerton for social work, definitely professors were very helpful in navigating through the pandemic. From transitioning, my first year was in person, and unfortunately the pandemic hit and we had to go virtual. So definitely they were helpful in providing resources for, not just school related, it's also, at home with issues at home, employment. So just being open as a person has really been helpful for me to navigate through the challenges as a first generational student, by accepting that, hey, I may not know all the answers. I know there's somebody out there that could that I could reach out and seek help in navigating, such as applying for school, financial aid, scholarships. And through my experience from community college to the university, there is individuals that are there for first generation students. And also I just suggest for anybody who may feel discouraged that they do have strengths, and to really, I grasp my flaws, I grasp them and I hold them because they make me human. And once I realize okay, I need help on this one, a little bit more support on this area, then I'll be able to overcome any challenges that I face through in life.
Thank you, Anna. Sounds like you really relied on your faculty and the various institutions you were in, and accepting vulnerabilities, admitting our limitations, and when we need to ask for help, which is sometimes not an easy thing to do, right? And now as a professional, you're in a professional role now. How do you utilize not just your story, but understanding maybe the strengths of the Latinx community in the work that you do? How does that play out into maybe your scope of work, your lens, how you interact and engage with the Latinx community now as a professional?
I definitely use like my past to really understand individuals who may not have the opportunity to, seek an education and really use their cultural from what they came from to really, navigate how I present the information for them, for the resources, because from the individuals that I work with, they may be hesitant to seek medical help because they've never gone to the doctor, because from Mexico, they didn't have that opportunity to be seen. So I really try to use their background to really modify how I present the information and for them to receive the services that will greatly help them. To remind them as well, like, hey, your these are your strengths in this area, but you could also, have those strengths overlap to other challenging times that they may face through. And just remind the individuals that we are strong individuals, and just at the moment it may be challenging, but if you recognize that you have this strength, you're able to apply it to overcome the challenges they may face.
Thank you, Anna. Well, I think we can all agree that over this past year or 18 plus months, the pandemic in many ways has vastly changed our lives and the lives of those around us. We know that inequities exist, and the pandemic, along with other life events, have elevated such inequities and disparities, right? So, maybe Mike, if you can speak about what life lessons have helped you as an individual and as a professional in the role that you do and the work that you do to manage and keep managing through this pandemic. Maybe you can speak a little bit about that.
Sure. First and foremost, it's an honor to be here sharing the stage with such a fantastic panel, and Liz as our moderator. Thank you, President Virgi, Alvaro Balcaba, the Office of Diversity, Inclusion, and Equity Programs. I think it's so great that you guys challenge the community to get together to have conversations around the Latinx community. It's been 11 years since I've graduated from Cal State Fullerton, and boy, have I learned so much in that decade. I initially transferred over from Fullerton College, as you heard earlier, and essentially my K-12 experience was a little bit of a challenge. I was born in Mexico, in Jalisco, and my family moved to La Habra, so I was in EL pretty much my entire K-12 education. So it's big challenges there. Wasn't really motivated to pursue higher education, frankly. And so, graduated from high school, went to Fullerton College because that was the thing to do, right? And parents knew the importance of education, but they just didn't know how to support you with it, right? And so essentially I got stuck there for a couple years, a little too longer than I wanted to. And finally graduated and went to Cal State Fullerton, which is when everything changed for my life. And so I was focused on business administration. And then with that, I joined the Latino Business Student Association while I was there. And I also was the director of corporate relations for the Finance Association. And so Betty, was talking a little bit about the soft skills, right? The networking and the mentorship and whatnot. And 100%, yes, I agree with those points. It really supports your professional and personal growth as you advance in your career. And so as I finished up Cal State Fullerton, I actually got an internship, an unpaid internship, and they paid me in skills, right? Through the Orange County Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, which I met through Cal State Fullerton's internship event. And again, it all stems back to Cal State Fullerton. I built that relationship, got that unpaid internship. And one of the things I learned early in my career is when an organization goes through leadership change, the entire organization goes through change. Folks that have, been with the organization for so long may not like the new style of the new leader coming in or the changes that they want to implement and things like that. And so I essentially ended up with a paid position at the chamber because their staff left. And here I was as a junior at Cal State Fullerton with zero experience in the professional world, handed a county-wide membership manager position. And frankly, I was afraid to pick up the phone. As lacking confidence as a Latino, the Spanish was still kind of a challenge with respect to being able to talk the business talk, right, within the community. And so I was basically thrown into the water, sink or swim, right? Talk about resiliency, right? And it was very stressful. And I, developed relationships to support my growth professionally and personally. And so really that was kind of my first throw you into the pool without floaties and see how you do. And I was able to persevere and just problem solve and learn some of those soft skills early on. And so during my time at the chamber, we actually saw a disconnect between up and coming young professionals like yourselves out in the audience and the workforce. And so we developed a program at the Orange County Hispanic Chamber to really bridge that gap between young, diverse, people looking to grow in the professional world to, the professionals already in the industry, right, through the Hispanic Chamber. And so we created the youth chamber for the chamber, and we've been doing that for now 13 years, which, I'm so proud of as a founding member. We're still challenging young people to practice these soft skills, join a board, develop content, bring their peers along, and mentor them as well. And so I did that for a good year with respect to being on the board. And then I was a mentor for about a decade. And then through that opportunity, I ended up getting my next career, or my actual career, after I graduated in 2010. And so I ended up being a national director of programs and events for a software company called Mind Research Institute. I was there supporting K-12 schools, elementaries, mostly across the country. And so that was my first gig, if you will, right out of college. And wow, what an experience that was to be able to travel the country and kind of reflecting on my past of being born in Mexico and kind of being lost and getting up and getting to Cal State Fullerton, getting the opportunities to challenge myself professionally and personally. And so I was there for about a decade. And then I told myself I was getting bored. Little did I know that I am not bored today. And so now today I'm the executive director of a TK through 8th grade charter school here in Santa Ana. We're a dual immersion program in Spanish. We've got about 93% Hispanic Latino students here, 50% are ELs like I was growing up. So I can definitely relate to some of these students. And I actually got this job through someone at the software company that I met there, again, through the chamber and through Cal State Fullerton. So that just kind of goes to show you, the power of resiliency and just kind of diving in and not being afraid to learn things and celebrate, like Anna was talking about, those challenges that you see in yourself, right? Embracing those and then getting back up and then moving forward. And so, leading a public school during a pandemic has been really hard. And that's why I was joking about I was bored at the time. Little did I know that I was going to be dealing with a pandemic. And so my job here at the charter school is really like a superintendent at a traditional public school district. And so I oversee the principal, nutritional services, facilities, you name it, all the departments that it takes to run a school. And so I'm touching a variety of different things, project management, trying to bring people together, things like that. So one of the life skills that I've learned in the last decade really is being united as a team. We're not always going to agree on everything. We just got to figure out how to find common ground and remind ourselves about the why, right? Our why is to educate our students here in 2 languages, right? And then, people in general, we were talking about this early before everybody joined us, is, right now we're living in a time of fear, right? The unknown. And so if we all really work together to combat that fear, we can make great things happen, right? And so a couple of things that I've been challenging my team with is being flexible, adaptable, and compassionate at every single level, because we never know what the story is on the other side, right? I know that we put policies and procedures in place, but we're living in such an uncertain time. So what could we do to be flexible, right? To adapt to county health, regulations around quarantining kids and things like that. And so it's just been a lot of, diving in, being united, being flexible, being adaptable, and compassionate with everybody. And at the same time, doing it while being calm. Because if you're leading an organization and you're not, modeling, just a mindfulness and a calm space, you're not going to be able to support people that are a little bit nervous to make great things happen. So in a nutshell, that's kind of who I am and some of the things I've learned in the last decade, and really just being open to the unknown.
Thank you, Mike, for sharing your story. And I love your analogy of unpaid internships meet paid in skills and networking. So there you go. You got a paid job after all. And that's what we hope. And we tell students, just because it's perhaps an unpaid internship doesn't mean you're not going to get great life skills that could potentially lead to a job. So thank you for sharing that. Can you share a little bit with me about the murals behind you? Tell us a little bit about the murals behind you, and what do they mean to you and your staff and your students, and how are you creating deeper conversations around them?
You know, it's fun. I'm glad that you brought up the mural. The mural is actually called Purple Unity Mural. And as I was reflecting on, you know, the life lessons for the question number one, right? I thought about unity and the diverse team here at the school, and that we literally have had to be united on every single call because of everything that we've had to deal with. When we finished up last school year, we actually ran 3 programs: a virtual program for TK8 in person with teachers, and then for the students that were struggling at home virtually, we brought them in with support staff. So we ran 3 programs. And so, you know, being united as a team really represents this mural. And so one of the things that we've been working on here at the school with this particular mural concept was we initially had gotten a donor to do this for us about 2 years ago. And folks that have worked in philanthropy, you know, issues come up and we weren't able to get the funding secured. And so the project died, right? And we had already gotten the artist and the student engagement aspect. We had already done the work to start to make it come to life. And then the wish list item got pulled away from us. And so randomly in November of 2020, so about a year ago in November, there was a private donor in the community that was out for a run. And last year was challenging, right? We had the pandemic, you know, civil unrest, you know, the protests, there were just civil rights challenges, right? So there was just a lot that was going on in our community. And so this particular donor was thinking about the political divide, right? You know, Republicans, Democrats, and red and blue, and how they're divided, and how could she support a project in the community to bring a building to life and represent unity. And so she took, you know, the concepts of, you know, red and blue, mix them together, you get purple. And so she's like, I want to create a mural in the community that represents unity. And I want these colors featured. Everything else is up to you guys. So we went to the community, our parents and staff, and asked them what they wanted to see on this mural. And so we've got, you know, different folks represented here, like Cesar Chavez, MLK, Frida, Rosa Parks, Einstein, Malala are on here, really to represent different things within our civil rights, you know, activism, right? And innovation and math, right? And science, et cetera, right? There's just so much behind this mural that we can talk to our students about for many generations to come. We have the heart as well that's featured when you connect your hands to create that heart. And then we have OSEA character traits. We really are trying to develop ethical young people early on, right? Having collaboration, being, you know, having skill for perseverance, et cetera, right? And so those are actually featured on our mural in Spanish. So this is a bilingual mural. And then we also have on this mural the DNA strand all the way across this wall to represent that we're all human and we all have, you know, the same inner workings. Let's focus on that and work together and be united as a community to make great things happen. And so this mural is about 8,000 square feet, so it's pretty massive. It was curated by the artist here in Santana, Brian Peterson of Faces of Santana. And so really, this project was also, you know, tied to resiliency. We had this opportunity that came up, it was pulled away, and then we had another opportunity came up, and we fought to work with the donor, the artist, and construct this in 7 days. And so, which is pretty fantastic, right? And so really just getting our students involved, getting the community at large involved, and also as a political vision as well, right? And so it was nice to do this work and then unveil it to the community via ribbon cutting. The California Hispanic Chambers of Commerce actually flew out for the ribbon cutting and provided us with another grant to do a playground project, which was about another 10,000 square feet of art that was also constructed by the same donor. So feel free to follow us on Instagram so you can check that project out. But it's nice to be able to bring the community in to support a public school and inspire young minds.
Love it. Thank you so much for sharing the story about the mural. Now, when we drive by, we'll know, you know, the whole story about the mural. And I think it definitely resonates with your leadership and what you shared about unity and honoring your purpose and really asking the why, right? So thank you for sharing that. Genesis, as you think about your own story, what has your own story taught you about the power of resiliency? How can your story or what you have to share teach us all about what we should continue to keep in mind in our respective roles as we think about serving our Latinx community?
Great question. But first and foremost, it's a pleasure to be a part of this panel, and I'm loving it. I'm loving it. And my life as a first generation college student has been a very, very, very hard journey. And one thing that I've learned is that you just never give up. And I constantly through this journey, a quote that always comes to mind is what Cesar Chavez said, "Sí se puede." Yes, we can. Where there's a will, there's a way. Where there's desire, there's passion. And where you have that, you make a way where there's no way. And so I'd like to share with all of you what I mean by how difficult my academic journey as a first generation college student has been. When I came into Cal State Fullerton, I'm so grateful. I was able to hop right into Cal State Fullerton straight out of high school, and the first in my entire family. And when I did, my father passed away. He went into cardiac arrest. And my first day there, I get the news, he died. Your dad just passed away. The day I found out that he died, I went to a church to preach and to just give a word of encouragement to people. And I still had the courage to go there and give that word of encouragement to an audience, even though internally my heart was drowning in sadness, and I still did it. That is an example of resiliency, where despite the obstacles and the circumstances, because your passion and your desire to break a generational chain of no education, no prosperity, just constantly being on a budget, because that passion became a fuel for me, there's a way, and there's a way for me, there's a way for all of you when you have that desire and that passion. So may he rest in peace. But so that's part of it, right? That was my first year. And because of that, my second year as a sophomore at Cal State Fullerton, I was placed in academic probation. My grades were horrible, ugly, disgusting. And that messed me up psychologically, just all around. And there's a resource on campus that has helped me a lot, and that's CAPS. We have access to therapy as students at Cal State Fullerton, where you get to voice what's going on, how you're feeling. You come as you are, and everything you speak and everything you share stays there. And if it weren't for that, I wouldn't feel comfortable in sharing this with all of you publicly, because it's like life shapes you. It either breaks you or it shapes you, and you have the choice and the power to decide what it does to you. So that was first and second year. Third year at Cal State Fullerton, my mother had immigration problems. I was born and raised here in the United States, but I'm not sure if all of you have ever heard of TPS, which stands for Temporary Protective Status. That's something that immigrants who cross the borders have access to so that they can work here with permit and permission, so that they can have a Social Security working for them. So she's had that. And that happened. And on top of that, I had a car accident that same year. And I got tossed over onto the other side of the streets, complete total loss of my vehicle that you can see there. I'm a college student. I'm on a budget. I'm trying to, be cautious of my income, and I barely have enough to pump gas on that. And it was a complete total loss. But I came out alive with no injuries. So I still got some work to do in this world. I'm still here. You're still here. We're all still here. We are a light in this world, and education matters. So that happened. That interrupted me greatly. And the next day after this accident, I got selected to go on a Cal State Fullerton road trip. That's the first thing ever that Cal State Fullerton has ever adopted. And what this is we're 3 college students that are first generation got selected to go on a road trip and be part of a documentary. On this journey, we got to interview Cal State Fullerton alumni, and it was all beautiful. And one of the alumni that we got the pleasure of meeting was Judge Elizabeth Macias. a judge in Orange County, Elizabeth Macias, and I met her. And one thing that I noticed with all of the panelists that shared was that we've been the interpreter. We've been the translator. We've been of assistance to our parents, right? Like, ayúdame con esto, help me with this. ¿Cómo puedo llegar aquí? How can I come there? ¿Cómo se hace esto? How do you do this? We are that faucet in our family. We help, we're the lawyer, we're the interpreter, the everything. We are that in our families. And so Judge Elizabeth Macias made a highlight, and she said to all of us, me, Genesis Garcia, Cesar Romero, and Ranela Sanga, the 3 Cal State Fullerton students that got selected, she said, you all, first generation college students, you guys have something that a lot of students do not have. And these were her words. You have an inventory. And we said, wait, what is that? And what she means by that is you have a gift, and that's an inventory that matters. You can speak English and Spanish. You are not only an interpreter, but you're also a translator. You're also the lawyer of your family. They get a card, you read it for them. You guys do so much on top of going to school and getting a bachelor's degree. And so I'd like for all of us not to take that lightly. It's a huge thing. It's an amazing accomplishment to be here before you and to share this with you. But it's also an encouragement to all of us that you can. And on this road trip, not only did we get to meet Cal State Fullerton alumni, but I got to meet President Fran Virgi. That has been an enormous blessing to my life. I have learned so much from President Fran Virgi, more than I've ever learned from anyone on earth. And I'm going to quote some words. Like, he said so many things, but till this day, what is just so heavy on my heart were these words. And I quote President Fran Virgi. These were his words to us. When you give from your heart, what you're doing is creating space in your heart for more to come in, and your heart can get better. Meaning that whatever it is that we do in life, when you do it joyfully and wholeheartedly, what we're doing is we're creating more space to make this world a better place. Because as we all mentioned, there's so much social inequalities, so much going on still. And we can contribute to that when you have a heart that loves to give and loves to contribute to this world. And so I urge you all to continue to be resilient, whether you are a Cal State Fullerton student or you're an incoming student, or even if you're not a Cal State Fullerton student. If you ever see this, or if you ever hear my words, I really encourage you not to give up. Sí se puede. You can do it. And in Spanish, this is a quote that always follows me. Todo lo bueno en esta vida cuesta. Everything that's good in life takes hard work. Nothing easy, nothing good comes easily. Hard work pays off. And so it's been tough. We got COVID-19. Oh, and then my senior year, COVID-19 hits, right? And I live in a very small home, a 2-bedroom home with 10 individuals. Do you guys believe Genesis has any space to be able to grab her book and just read? I do not have that. What I had to do was get in my car. I was able to get another car and get as close as I can to a Starbucks and stay inside of my vehicle to get Wi-Fi. It's been hard. And then a time came where we weren't able to afford Wi-Fi at home anymore. And at this point, I had already met President Fran Virgi and his amazing wife, Miss Julie Virgi, and Chief of Staff Danielle Garcia. I reached out for help, and I said, I need help. And what they helped me with was to get a MIFI, which a lot of students have access to. If you don't have Wi-Fi, you have access to that. And I didn't have to stay in my car, and I didn't have to get near to a Starbucks anymore because of our amazing university, our amazing staff, our amazing resources that are there. But all it takes is for willingness to be open and transparent and to ask for help. So with that being said, that concludes my story. And thank you.
Genesis, thank you so much. What a powerful, courageous story you have. And you're such a strong individual. You have a powerful message, and I'm excited to see where you'll be next, because I have no doubt that you'll be doing amazing things as you are now and in the future. And so thank you so much for sharing your story, and all of the panelists for sharing your stories. And I think, you know, as we were talking offline, we just have a lot of connections, and I've learned a new terminology like the inventory that we all have. We've all had, you know, parentified roles. Some of us, you know, either are, you know, came to this country at an earlier age and learning English. Some of us maybe were born and raised here, but our families did not, and having to navigate not only structures, but language and all of those things. And I think you're right, it's an inventory, and those muscles don't go away. You know, I think they're always there, and you just gain more muscles and you activate that. Oh, I know how to navigate that. This might look different, taste different, but I know how to navigate similar situations. So thank you so much for sharing that. I'm actually going to turn now to some of our Q&As that are coming through the chats, and start off with the first question, I believe. And I'll just read it off, and you know, if it lends itself for you to respond, just, you know, unmute yourselves, and we'll start from there. In response to Anna's story, as a first-gen graduate as well, and education provided mental programming that broke me out of cultural limitations. Would you agree that education trains us to think differently in a necessary way for our individual success?
I believe it does. I feel that education opened up doors and opportunities. I feel like my mom, she only had a third grade education, and she always has, since elementary school, she always instilled me like, finish the homework. Let me see the homework. Even though she couldn't read it or understand it, she knew, okay, she filled it out and it's completed. And she was always on top of it since elementary school. So I feel I gained from her the importance of pursuing my educational career. And definitely my time at school has helped me realize like I am stronger than I realized in other situations outside of school that has hindered me to get my bachelor's within 10 years. If life was perfect, I could have gotten my bachelor's right after high school. I got accepted to Cal State Long Beach, but unfortunately, due to past histories and experiences, there were some barriers that I overcame. But luckily, I got my bachelor's in 10 years, and I gained my GPA from a 1.3 to a 3.7 in my master's. So definitely using the mindset that I gained for education, I was able to implement in other areas in my life. So I see the importance of having accessibility for education, as well as letting the Latinx community feel comfortable with using those resources, and being an advocate for individuals that don't feel comfortable or don't know how to navigate through those resources. That's why I feel blessed that I have the position where I could provide help. And just like Genesis says, I have my own inventory, my toolbox, how they say at my time at the social work school, that we have our own toolbox that we could take out. Oh, I know where to look up this information. Oh, I know how to speak Spanish. I'm able to translate this. So it's definitely, it's been beneficial with education, like definitely has trained my mindset to work in different areas.
Thank you. In response to Mike's story, as a Latinx member of society, how do you challenge systems that were not created for us? Specifically in the workforce, it can be scary sometimes due to the hierarchies that exist.
Yeah, and you know, that's such a loaded question, right? And I actually, a few experiences that I've had nationally is, so marketing. So I was doing marketing for the software company. And so we had salespeople across the country that I would support. And oftentimes these people were of Caucasian descent. And so for me, I would find myself uncomfortable many times being in this industry where I was this young Latino that was born in Mexico that sometimes couldn't keep up with their, you know, their water cooler conversation about different topics that, you know, they've been exposed to because of many generations of being here in the United States. I didn't have that luxury, so oftentimes I felt very uncomfortable and just out of place. And then on top of that, and I'm gonna be vulnerable here, I'm a gay Latino as well. And so being, Hispanic, Catholic, gay Latino was a big challenge for me also to accept myself for who I am, being in this predominantly Caucasian industry as a Latino within this system, if you will. And so honestly, till today, I tell people, take pride in your work because the work speaks for itself. And because of that, for me personally, I've been able to break through the quote unquote systems to be able to take on the next career in my life and leave a lasting impact because of the work that I contribute to those organizations. I think oftentimes people, may get stuck in their head and then that gets the best of them and then they're not able to march forward, if you will. And so for me, really just, putting in the work, being adaptable, being a team player, being a problem solver, it's something that I feel like I'm pretty good at. And really taking pride in your work will really help break some of those systems. And then also volunteering your time with different organizations of interest that you have. I talked about getting this unpaid internship at the countywide Hispanic Chamber. I'm on the board now for the California Hispanic Chambers of Commerce, and this is my 5th year doing that. And so now I'm able to provide advocacy for people that are coming right behind me and for the community at large that I support. And so really, again, just taking pride in your work and working through the issues and being present.
Thank you, Mike. Anybody else may want to comment on that question about how do you challenge systems that were not created for us?
Yes.
Betty?
Yeah, I wanted to comment and thank you. I think we all share kind of same commonalities and how we pursue our passions and never giving up regardless of the circumstances that we are in. I believe that one of the things that we encounter a lot is also the imposter syndrome. It's very common that we all feel like, you know what, I feel like I don't know this. And then we go and learn it and we still don't feel like we are good enough. But we have to try and just be confident in what we learn. It's the same thing. If you're going to Cal State Fullerton, it's the same thing that other Caucasian kids are learning at the same time as you, and you are gonna be fine. You just have to be confident. There was something that stuck in my head. In my firm, we work with a lot of government clients and a lot of corporations. So I went to the Anaheim State of the Union, State of the City, sorry. And I hear the mayor saying this: you might think I have an accent. What are you talking about? I don't have an accent. When I was in my country, nobody told me that I had an accent. So I speak English fluently. I don't know what you're talking about. So I like that confidence. That kind of confidence is what we need. And just believe in what you know. It's going to be applicable of everything you do.
Thank you. Does anybody else want to comment on that question? Okay. So as we think about what brings us hope as we move forward, as you kind of reflect that question, what we've discussed and some of your goals, whether it be life, work, and what you would like to see for our Latinx community, what brings you hope as we move forward?
Oh, go ahead, Mike.
Ladies first, please.
Thank you. I think what brings me hope is seeing like a lot more representation within the different levels of services and in our community. That advocacy, as well as advocating for yourself. It may be scary, but it has worked for me. Definitely overcome that fear of, well, I'm not worth it. It's just one person, but it is like advocating for yourself, as well as me being able to spread that hope, the sense of hope as a Latina female from that lives in a I definitely would spread this hope up to other elementary school students, such as how Mike said that it starts in elementary school. Like definitely I see myself that those teachers in elementary school really spark that that interest, like I am worthy, like I do have that light to be someone successful and help the Latinx community in building up with themselves. So what gives me hope is seeing how we're becoming more and more impactful in the different realms in our community.
Awesome. And for me personally, seeing Ana in Genesis, here with us today, having a conversation about, their story, right? And the work that they're doing. And that gives me hope that we have such talented, titans that are going to be making big impact here in California, maybe even nationally, right? And then I've also noticed that there's been a big push for, there's organizations that are popping up to advocate for more Latinos on different board of director positions, right? And so I've been seeing a lot of that pop out. And so that representation or that seat at the table for you to be able to provide your voice, I think it's giving me hope as well. And also there's, several nonprofit nonprofit organizations that, support the Hispanic Latino community that have been doing amazing work for decades. And so for those that don't know about those organizations, I challenge you to support them. At the end of the day, they're real nonprofits and they need a community to make them thrive. And so, again, having that voice within your community, and even if it's just one person, like Ana said, that can leave a lasting impression.
Yeah, I'm gonna second what Mike just said about the organizations. I feel like it gives me hope that these organizations are reaching out to the Latino communities. They wanna be mentors. They wanna, because we personally, we know the struggles that you face as a student, and how incredibly it's like putting a puzzle together when you trying to get a career. It's like, what is next? So it's scary to get out there, but believe me, there's a lot of mentors, and like I say at the beginning, it gives me hope that Latinos out there in good positions are there to help. Definitely get involved in anything in school that you can see alumni. I would recommend you joining the Latino Communications Institute, even though I don't think it's kind of formal, but a lot of alumni reach out to answer questions. So, and if you know any alumni, also reach out to those. I think we are always happy to help other students.
What gives me hope is, first and foremost, God. I believe in God, and you all might have a different belief system. Whatever it is, there has to be a source, and my source is God, and I believe in God, and that is my hope. And here, my second hope would be like a team, because reality is we can't do anything alone. What we got going on right here, folks, everyone, all of our viewers, everyone who hopped on to see, this would not be possible if there were not a team. We have a great team that organized this. Thank you, amazing team. So hope comes when you unite with the team, you unite with people, and we become one and we do things together. And so I'm hopeful that things will get better when we unite and we make our voice heard together, bring whatever it is to light. And as I shared in my story, you just keep working. You work hard for what you want, and you do not give up. Where there's a will, there is a way. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. I do see a couple other questions funneling in, and I think we might have time for one more. I'm assuming they'll get, the red flag when it's time, but and some of you touched on this. I think there's questions about the imposter syndrome and having ideas of what you have for yourself, and then kind of a little voice there that says like, no, you can't do this, or you shouldn't do this, or individuals in your community don't do this. So I think you've all addressed that. So if one of you want to talk a little bit more about that, that's one question that came up. And here's another one that came up in regards to accepting help, right? And so I think the question here is, sometimes it's difficult to acknowledge your limitations and ask for help, and then also being okay with accepting the help. So if maybe one of you can talk a little bit more about either the little voices in your head that tells you shouldn't, and then when you do ask for help, being comfortable with, accepting the help and being okay with not being afraid of accepting that help.
I can start with the imposter syndrome. I like I say, it's really hard when you tell yourself, I cannot do it. I just definitely not. One example I want to give you is when I was looking for an internship, I went to the greatest mentor ever, Inez Gonzalez. She told me that there is this internship at Telemundo 52. Never in my dreams I thought that I would have that opportunity. Never. It's like it's happening to me. I mean, I've never been in Los Angeles. So how am I gonna get there? So I was overthinking all these, like, oh my gosh, I can't do this. I can't do this. So again, Inez just kind of shook me and like, you know what? If you don't take it, other person is gonna take it. So it doesn't matter if you take it or not. But this is the kind of opportunity that doesn't come around all the time. So it's just like, you know what? Part of me is that I wanted to give them. I wanted to please the mentor, right? I didn't want to disappoint her, but also I wanted to see what is going on. When I got there, I got the internship. They told me it was at midnight, so I have to be in Universal Studios at midnight. And just like, I cannot do it. It's just like, I'm gonna leave my children. And so you find a way, and it is hard sometimes because those voices behind you are still telling you, but you really, really need to surround yourself with people that are gonna cheer you up and are gonna tell you, you can do it. If you cannot tell yourself you can do it, surround with people that believe in you. That is what I think you should do. Thank you.
Yeah, definitely with asking for help, it was difficult for me to finally be okay with, it's okay to be vulnerable and let others help you because you're the one who's helping, your family member, or you're helping others. I definitely, throughout my journey, it was difficult, but I managed to understand that you have to take care of yourself first in order to fully be able to take care of others. And that was just very hard for me throughout my bachelor's degree. It was that constant, no, I can't let people know that I'm having these issues. I need to hide it. I need to mask it all, especially, growing up in the Latinx community, some individuals have this stigma of like, toughen it out. Don't talk about it, silence it. So definitely just work with yourself and being accepting to accept the help of others that you have in order to be able to help other individuals, and set boundaries as well as yourself to have boundaries within like your limitations of being able to help others.
I'll talk a little bit about how to combat the imposter syndrome. I think oftentimes we tend to be in the hustle and the bustle of trying to get things done, and we always complete something and then we move on to the next thing, right? And so perseverance, right? We persevere through tough projects, but oftentimes we don't celebrate little wins or even big wins, right? So I would challenge everybody to adapt this strategy of taking a step back and celebrating your accomplishments and your wins, because that could help challenge you to contest that imposter syndrome mindset, right? Because, and then through that exercise, it reminds you that you can do it. Y si se puede, like Genesis was discussing, right? And so just take time to celebrate you.
I love it. And what I got to say with that is, not only si se puede, as I kept repeating, imposter syndrome is something I went through. I switched from sociology to business one semester. Guess what? Went back to sociology, because at the end of the day, everyone, what you do is for you. And I am sure you do not want to be miserable in a career pathway that you really didn't like. You did it just to paint a picture. Do something, remember, that fills your heart up. And also take care of yourself. and your mind, get help. We have access to therapy. You can speak to people, keep a small circle, just be cautious. And also, like, if you got to reach out for help, reach out for help. And in terms of like finding a mentor, you might not have the opportunity of like, okay, going to talk, but you can reach out and ask, hey, professor, can I stay after class and talk with your professor? Build relationships with your professor. We all have access to that. So, yeah.
Thank you so much for the advice. And I have just one last question. Maybe one or two of you can tackle the last question. This is a comment and a question that I saw here. Being the first is an accomplishment we should all be proud of, but I don't want to be the last. Any advice on how to motivate our family or community to reach for more?
I also gonna start on that one. So my daughters, both of them quit after high school. They didn't want to go to college. And I know I'm putting her on the spot if she's still around, but I think I never lost hope. And I just kept on telling them, you know what, the only thing that you're gonna get ahead of your career is if you go back to school. And I feel like by example, leading by example, my daughters actually saw that, and I wanna think that I inspire Ashley to go back to school, and she's doing great right now, and I'm so proud of her. So I just think it's important just to be a model and continue be mentor, not just for your own children, but for others.
Thank you, Betty. I'm sure you're a great model for your community as well. Thank you. Anna, you were gonna comment on that question?
I think definitely just having like the opportunity to talk about, certain issues that we normally don't talk about within our community, just to have like an open discussion with, the family members, and just really making it open to them that, hey, these are the choices, times have changed. Just to educate them with that fear, because I know there's a lot of fear-based like thoughts that individuals may hold on to, not to receive services that are available for our community. So I just feel like having that open discussion is beneficial for us to, keep persevering through in life.
Thank you. Mike, you were going to jump on, I think.
Yeah, just really quickly, just kind of piggybacking on what Betty said, we talked a lot about finding a mentor for us, and regardless of where you're at in your career, you should always have one, but also become a mentor for someone behind you. So that way you can share your words of wisdom or what you've learned, along your life to the next generation behind us. I talked a lot about that youth chamber. So in the chat, I put the link. If you're curious, check it out. And that model is kind of what I'm describing. These young people come in, get this experience for the year, they grow in their skills, and then the next group of students come in, and obviously kind of like Cal State Fullerton, right? We're bringing in these young people to educate them, to challenge them to do great in life.
Thank you. Well, I believe that concludes our table talk conversation. Thank you all for being part of this conversation and sharing your story and inspiring us to continue doing what we're doing for our Latinx community. And thank you all for those who have joined us. It has been a pleasure, and I'm excited to see the places that you all are going to be and moving through, and definitely very inspiring story. So thank you all for joining us today.
Thank you all for joining us for the Titan Table Talk on resiliency in the Latinx community. The Office of Diversity, Inclusion, and Equity Programs will be hosting the next Titan Table Talk on October 27th from 11:30 a.m. to 1 p.m. on the resiliency of the LGBTQ+ community. And don't forget, October is Conflict Resolution Month, and go ahead and mark your calendars for this year's Social Justice Week, kicking off on March 14th. You can find details for these and all of our upcoming events in our newsletter. Thanks again for being part of our conversation, and we hope to see you again. Bye, everyone.